What's up guys, my name is Liam, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new mouse pads coming out from Vaxee, the PE series, and the all-new PC. The second I saw these announced, I knew I had to get my hands on them, as I've been a huge fan of their previous offerings. I did review the PB on my channel, and that's still a pad I use quite a bit to this day. So I'm going to do my best to break these down to help you decide if ultimately one of these could be the perfect option for you. So let's check it out. Before we get started today, I did want to let you know these were sent out to me. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Here's the packaging that these did come included in. They were rolled up. However, I didn't have any issues when I took them out of the box getting them to lay flat on my desk. Starting out with the PE series, these do come available in two larger sizes. So they do have a large and an XL. This one I have here on my desk is an XL. As you can see, it's so big it actually does go outside of the frame of my camera, but the XL does come in at 520 millimeters in width by 560 millimeters in height. So it is a little bit more longer than it is wide. And then the large version comes in at 500 millimeters in width by 510 millimeters in height. And one of the changes over the PA series with this new PE series is the base. It is a little bit more firm than the previous version, and I do want to say that I am a huge fan of this. First off, sitting on my desk, I haven't had any issues with it moving around, but the rebound properties on this are incredibly fast. And the edges still are exposed. There is no stitching. However, with this longer style, I was able to move it down to the very edge of my desk. So I haven't noticed any issues with the edges at all as I've been using it. Even with this XL version, it was kind of made so that you can hang it off the edge of your desk to give you that extra length there on the top. They are still using the same surface that was on the previous Vaxee PA pads. So if you are familiar at all with the properties, that has been very popular and been around for a long time, then you really do know what to expect with this. The performance on it is obviously going to be really similar. It's going to have the same type of speed. The one difference, however, I did notice with this base is it does give you a little bit more consistency, and you just kind of get an overall smoother performance when it comes to the overall properties. So to me, it almost seemed like there was just a little bit less of the initial static friction and the dynamic friction. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that there's really any differences in the performance. Again, with the surface being the same, they do feel nearly identical to one another. So you're still going to be getting that great control and everything like that you got with the previous versions, just with the base offering a little bit of a difference of an experience there. And really my initial reaction to this as soon as I got it out of the box is that it feels just like the PA, just slightly improved. And before I jump into the comparisons, I did want to just give you guys a heads up. I live in a very hot and humid environment, so the results that I'm showing you guys could slightly vary. But starting out and comparing it to the Zowie GSR2, for those of you that don't know, the GSR2 is a bit of a faster version compared to the original GSR. But going back and forth between these are still some of my top control options that are out there on the market. For the GSR2, I do feel like it is a little bit quicker, so I noticed that I get a little bit less of the static and dynamic friction there, where I do feel like there is a little bit greater sense of control over here on the PE XL. So a little bit more of the tugging back and forth on the static, and as you can see there on the dynamic, a nice and controlled experience. Let's go ahead and drop the glide test comparison between both of them. And I have always kind of found that the GSR2 is a little bit slower for me compared to the Saturn Pro. This is the brand new version of it, but since this is so popular, just throwing it up there. Obviously, the Vaxee PE is going to have a little bit greater of both the static and dynamic friction. So let's go ahead and throw down the glide comparison between both of them. Here's a look of the PE Black in large. As I mentioned at the beginning of my video, I was a huge fan of the PB, so I knew exactly what to expect with this surface. It is generally known that the printed versions are slightly a little bit quicker than the black versions of their pad, and I'm not trying to create any confusion or anything like that. I'm not sure if it has something to do with the humidity. However, in my environment, I would say the performance of these do feel really similar to one another. I am, however, getting just a little bit more of static friction and tugging on the printed version Then when I go back over here to the black version, again, I'm not sure if that has something to do with the fact that it is very humid out here, but the performance of these really aren't that far apart from one another. Both of these are really solid control options. So let's go ahead and throw down the glide test comparison between both of these. I have been equally enjoying the black version and the printed version just about as much as one another. If I did have to pick between the two, my personal preference, I would go with the PE black version. The performance of this really feels fantastic, and I would even categorize this as one of my favorite control pads out there on the market. And just to show you some of the comparisons of some of the other top pads and my top picks out there, the Zowie GSR2, I love this thing so much. The performance of both of these is honestly really similar to one another. When going back and forth and comparing the static friction to both of these, I do feel like there can be a slight difference depending on the type of skates that you're using, but generally I kind of feel like the PE black does feel just a little bit like a hair more controlled than the GSR2. So very equal in both the static and the dynamic friction on both of these. So let's go ahead and throw up the speed test comparison between both of them. And lastly, I will go ahead and put it up against the Saturn Pro. This is the soft version. They do have a new firm base option available, but comparing the soft to the Vaxee base, obviously this one's going to be a lot more firm over here and have a lot quicker rebound properties, but you do get a little bit more consistency where the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, you can push into it a little bit more. So the PE Black does offer a little bit more of static friction and dynamic friction as well, feeling a little bit more controlled to me over the new Saturn Pro. So let's go ahead and drop a glide test comparison between both of them. So next up, we're going to be going over the all new PC, and this does come in more of their traditional size. This is using the newer, firmer style base that feels fantastic. And when it comes to the edges around this thing, they are absolutely god tier. Vaxee might just very well set the new standard on edging for mouse pads, and I do believe in the near future that other people are going to definitely try and start copying this new style. There isn't really much to say about it, as you can just tell by looking at it. You don't have anything sticking out with any type of stitching or anything like that that is altered from the actual surface itself. This is also featuring a brand new surface, and when rubbing my finger across both the Y and the X-axis, there hardly is a noticeable amount of texture there. So it feels very even on both the X and Y, and the performance of this honestly is just right up my alley. I would categorize this probably a little bit more as a balanced style mouse pad, still giving you an emphasis on control. When it comes to the static friction, it doesn't feel too slippery or anything like that, but you do get a really low sense there, so you don't notice any like massive tugging going back and forth or anything like that. And with the properties of the surface combined with the firmness of this base, if you need something with a little bit more control, you can push into it and get a great sense of stopping power there. Even when switching directions, if you're playing something a little bit quicker, it has such a low amount of static friction there. Again, it doesn't feel slippery or anything like that, still giving you that cloth style feeling surface, but you just get such a low sense of static friction. It's very easy to make changes in direction or corrections on the fly. So this still does give you the similar properties with the skates. If you're using larger style of skates, you do get a little bit more control and a little bit more friction there. The second that you start going to some of the smoother skates or even the smaller skates, it does offer a much quicker glide and performance. And when taking consideration over this one compared to the PE series, this is noticeably quicker than both of those, having less static and dynamic friction. And since I've already gone over the performance of these with the previous pads, I'm sure you have a really good understanding of what it's going to be like. However, just throwing it up really quickly against the Zowie GSR2, this is going to feel a bit quicker than the GSR2, and you do notice less of both the static and the dynamic friction when going back and forth and comparing both of them to one another. And even when comparing this to the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, I do really feel like the properties of both of these are really similar to one another. I do feel like you might just get a little bit less of a sense of static friction over here on the brand new PC, but the dynamic friction of these really don't feel that far apart from one another, and I would say that the glide speed between both of these is very comparable to each other. All right, guys, so that about wraps things up on these brand new Vaxee mouse pads. I've been really enjoying using these a lot, and in fact, even with this new PC pad, I'm even going to go as far as saying that it's really teetering right there as being my new main. I do have to spend more time with it, but easily I'm going to put this in top 3. I really feel like everything about it, the surface, the base, and obviously the edges on this. Everything about this pad, I really have been loving it so much. And even that PE black, I just love that thing. Like I told you guys, I love the PB a lot. So the fact that it does come in a bigger size, huge win for me. The only real one ask that I have for Vaxee is I would just love to see this PC in a bigger size, but I do really like the 500 by 510, even the XL version. I feel like they're great. So hopefully they'll be able to come out with a bigger version of this in the future. So if either one of these fall in the category of looking like the type of performance that you look for in a mouse pad, then I can absolutely recommend checking either one of these out. So if you do have any additional questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.